You have a 7-year-old who's talking about having a potential to say, I being able to articulate that they believe that they are not the same gender as they are biologically, then it should be affirmed. And through care, it should be determined.
That person, my friends, her name is Lori Wilson. She's an assembly person in the California legislature, and she was speaking in favor of California Assembly Bill AB 957. The title of that bill under family law is gender identity. She's basically telling us that, and you heard her, and I'm going to play the longer version of that. If a 7-year-old tells their parents that they don't feel like the gender they are, the parents need to get that child care to affirm their identity. They had a hearing in the California State House, and hundreds of parents attended to oppose this legislation, and it has since passed the California Senate. I'm going to read you a little piece of the people of the state of California do enact as follows. Section 1, number 12774A. If a petition has been filed for a minor by a parent and the other parent, if living, does not join in consenting, the petitioner shall cause not less than 30 days before a hearing. So basically, if one person wants this and the other doesn't attend the hearing, after notice was given, this may be enacted by a judge. Section 12774B states, and I'm reading from the California Assembly website and the actual bill itself. If a non-consenting parent objects to a name and gender marker change to affirm the minor's gender identity, the court shall strongly consider that affirming the minor's gender identity is in the best interest of the child pursuant to Section 3011 of the Family Code. Basically, what they're doing is passing legislation that if a child is confused and they're young, under the age of 18, if they're confused and they believe that they were born in the wrong body and they want to change, if the parents do not get them care, gender affirming care, the parents are at risk of losing their children. If one parent agrees and another parent disagrees, say there was a divorce, the disagreeing parent may not even have visitation rights if a judge decides that. So watch the whole clip of Lori Wilson, and then we'll be back.
This particular bill adds the very important factor that affirming a child's gender identity is in their best interest, which is what your question is about. Why does it actually say that in an affirmative way? And it really is because if you have a 7-year-old who's talking about having a potential to say, I being able to articulate that they believe that they are not the same gender as they are biologically, then it should be affirmed. And through care, it should be determined. And that's what we did with our own child. And that would give the ability for a parent who wasn't sure to affirm and get their child the care that they need to make that, so they can begin to articulate that determination. But by saying and rejecting it in wholesale, then you're essentially rejecting your child. And that is not in the best interests of a child. We should be affirming our children in every possible way and getting them whatever appropriate care they need, whether it's based on their gender, whether it's based on how their studies are in school. It doesn't matter. Our children should be affirmed. And this is saying that you have to include gender affirmation as a part of that.
So I can't believe we're even talking about this today, but this is going on. It's passed by the California Senate. If parents do not affirm their child's gender, they may lose them because the government will have the power to do it. I don't I don't know what's going on. I thought this was the United States of America, where your children were your children. You care for them You make the decisions for them in their best interest. If your child is young, let's say age 12, and they say to you, I don't feel like I'm a boy if it's a boy. I think I'm a girl. Well, yeah, you would probably talk to the child, maybe go see a specialist, but you wouldn't, in my view, go right to gender affirming care to determine if that child is really the other gender. But that's the law. It passed in the Senate. I'm not saying it became law. I don't know what's going on with the House version of it. But also, if that child lives in a bad home where there's domestic violence, with some kind of stalking going on, where there's sexual assault, any kind of human trafficking, then the government most certainly should be able to intervene and take those children. But based on a young child's decision, if you will, that they believe they're another gender, how is it okay for the government to take someone's children? Now, gender affirming care, I believe, has a couple of facets. I mean, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, but you have to wonder, is gender affirming care for a young child just letting them dress differently or using different pronouns or calling them a different name? Or is gender affirming care taking them to a physician to get them cross-sex hormones or puberty blockers or potential surgeries down the road? I don't know. But to have the power to take someone's children away out of a loving home because they're a young person and they see this all over the place and they believe they're someone else is wrong. And it's probably going to happen. Like I said, the Senate already passed it. The House probably will too. Again, this is California, a very, very liberal state. But this is one of the things they're worried about in California. They're saying they want to protect children. And that's all well and good. Okay, you want to protect children. But don't we have bigger problems? And I speak about this a lot. For instance, homelessness, people out of work, people drug addicted, people mentally ill, people struggling in all aspects of their life. Shouldn't these assemblies be working on those issues instead of working on taking someone's children away because that child believes they're someone else? I think they should be, because there's so many problems out there that being punished for not affirming your child's gender that they say they are, how is that even relevant today? These are children. They're young. They're impressionable children. And California is going to give the power to a judge, maybe, to take children away if one parent disagrees with it, or both. And again, in the instance of a divorce, if one parent disagrees, that parent may not even be able to see their child. Now, I don't know where it's going to go in the House, but what I'm reading from the California website is California Family Council from June 19th. The California Senate Judiciary passed AB 957, which would consider it abusive for a parent not to affirm a child's gender identity and would deny custody to non-affirming parents during custody disputes. This is where we are in 2023. We're less than 2 years away from a presidential election. We have an administration in Washington who absolutely 100% supports these issues because, as Joe Biden said, LGBTQ kids are cared for. They're welcome. They're wanted. All kids are wanted. All of them. I don't care skin, color, language they speak, who they say they may or may not be. They're children. These laws should not be passed, in my opinion, and I'm nobody, so of course they will be. But to have politicians who were voted into office do this to families after hundreds of people show up to hearings to oppose this, they listen to them and they just brush them aside. This is what we're doing. Deal with it. It's absolutely wrong. I never, in my years on this planet, ever thought that I would see this. Children are children. They have fantasies. They dream. They play with older siblings' toys or clothes. That does not mean that they want to be someone else. And I'll say it again. I'm sure there are some kids who really think this and believe this, and that's on them. But it should be up to the parents to help them through it. Try to take them for counseling and see where that goes if the parents disagree. It should not be up to local governments to come in and say, you're abusing your child because you're not affirming their gender. When we are born, or when I was, I know things have changed. When you were born, the physician determined your sex or gender by your genitalia. You were a boy or you were a girl. Now I believe birth certificates may have other options on them, which again I think is ridiculous, but that's the way it is. Leave the children alone. Let them be children. Let the parents determine what care they need. Unless, of course, like I mentioned in the bill, there's an abusive household, a drug-addicted household, or whatever, then the government should step in. But to deny a parent's rights to see their child if they disagree with what gender they say they are should not ever be a law in the United States. This is a free country. We have rights to live by. This is not a dictatorship. This is not a communist country. The government should not have the authority to determine whether the parents are suitable or not because they won't go along with their young child's vision of what they may or may not want to be. So I'm going to keep watching this because I want to see what the House in California does. But if the Senate passed it, the House is probably going to begin. I'm sure it'll go to Newsom's desk and he'll sign it right into law because that's what he's all about. Do as I say, not as I do. And that's it. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't liked this video, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and hit the notification bell. Share this video with as many people as you can, if you will. I'd appreciate that because people need to know what's going on in these blue states and what they're trying to do to take away parental rights and call it abuse if you don't call your child something else. It's just wrong, and I absolutely wholeheartedly disagree with it. Once you're an adult, do what you want to do. You can live your life the way you choose. A young child should not be put through that, and the government should not have the right to take them away. So I hope everybody's healthy and safe, and I'll see you soon with something else. Have a great night.